Okay. Nour, great to have you on the Better Business Show. Thanks for joining me. And whereabouts in the world are you right now, Nour?
I am right now in CDMX, Mexico City in Mexico, in a neighborhood called Condesa.
Wonderful, wonderful. Let's get straight into it. Aora, your business. What inspired you then at the start here to set up this business? And were there any kind of defining experiences that led to the establishment of this company of yours, Nour?
Yes, hi Tom. I forgot to say hello. Yes, I mean I feel like honestly most of my career and almost my cultural upbringing have gotten me to do this. I think I've been in the beauty industry for about 17, 18 years now. I have over 13 years at L'Oreal, where I was on product innovation, branding innovation, international brands, and very quickly got into the sustainability realm. So I got
Okay.
to work on doing the first silicone-free shampoos, the first PCR bottles, the first 100% plastic PCR bottles, working on shower heads that reduced water. So very quickly, I became extremely interested in this intersection between beauty and sustainability, the urgency of beauty joining a sustainability movement, and also realizing the spectacular innovation there is when you get into sustainability and when you get into more clean, sustainable beauty. Suddenly, the world is your oyster. So that was something that had always driven me in what I do, a passion for beauty, sustainability, but also for color and for a culture that is not necessarily always northern. I had a lot of frustrations in me, I would say, that beauty is very northern, very Eurocentric. Everyone talks about a new brand being born in beauty every week, but they're all born in the north. They're all from Paris, London, New York, LA. And what happens to the south? What happens to the rest of the world? That has a beautiful aesthetic to tell, that has amazing colors to say, that have beautiful narratives and imaginaries I think we can explore and they can inspire. I was inspired as well and frustrated that clean beauty is the future, but it's being a bit beige and boring today. Yes, we want fantastic, better for us formulas that don't hurt the environment or the body or human health, but they can also be a bit fun. They don't all have to feel like compromising on fun and glam. And I was frustrated because the beauty industry and especially makeup has a massive waste problem. And it's
Yeah.
something that I tried to fix at L'Oreal. And I was working on a plastic free brand and it couldn't come out. And uh, a big company cannot suddenly decide to go plastic free, even on a small brand, because
Mm.
you can't have one sister or one brother in the family make the rest of the family look bad. So it ended up being let's do this on the side and let's launch this quite ambitious project as more of an entrepreneur and a small business.
Yeah, and we'll dig into some of these frustrations of yours, Noor. And I suspect there's been many a startup that have launched on the back of frustration, right? So when you set about doing this, as you say, it was a side project originally. Did you have a sort of a set list of principles or values that you wanted to stick to when you launched your own business? Obviously, coming from L'Oreal, lots of restrictions, lots of bureaucracy, really hard to get stuff done in a big business. And
Yes.
so, from the outset, what was the original mission then with this business of yours?
So I think it's, I mean, on Aora, we talk about being a colorful force of change. And I think for me, I always knew that whatever I want to do, I want it to be, to feel organic, to feel instinctive. Why do I say this? I think, look, life is pretty hard. Working hard is time consuming, consuming to your body, consuming to your brain. And I wanted to build a business, a brand that one feels super natural to me. And that means it being super colorful because I love color. It being something that is maximalistic, that actually embraces a bit of the chaos that comes with beauty. And I wanted plastic free. I wanted plastic free because I know that that is a big problem when we talk about climate change, when we talk about what is going on in our world right now in the environment. There are many problems. Plastic is a big one of them, but you know what? Plastic is also, I think it's one of the easiest ones to tackle. It's a problem where we have defined the problem super well, and there are solutions that are very clear. There are so many. Can we just switch the world automatically tonight from petroleum based to electric? Probably not. But there are we know we can do something about plastic. We know the issues of recycling. We know the issues of packaging. We know the issues of greenwashing. We know the issues of wish cycling. We know the issues of the MRFs. So it was a topic that I felt is ambitious enough. I'm passionate enough about it, but there are enough solutions out there that we could probably do a realistic, achievable, measurable impact quite fast. So that's where I had always started. The maximalistic chaos thing was hard to convince a big beauty brand. Like it takes a year and a half or two to convince someone of a concept. You have to prove it to your manager and your manager's manager, and then get it in front of so many consumers. And you know what? Good ideas and instinctive ideas get extremely diluted when they go through all of that.
Yeah.
And then as for the plastic and the innovation, same. Sometimes when you take big ideas and put them through the length of some of the biggest R&D and innovators in the world, like in big companies like that, bureaucracy still comes against
Yeah.
cracking a good innovation.
Yeah. Yeah. And we will get into talking about plastic, but just to say, your love of colour is certainly not lost on me. For listeners that are just listening to this purely audibly, Nour is sat in a bright pink t-shirt inside a beautiful home. There's orange walls. You've got the green of the cactus there. And in contrast, I'm in my black shirt here in London. We couldn't be more different right now, Nour. But
you've got some color books. You've got some colorful
my
books
bookcase
behind
is
you.
making up for it. Yeah,
Yes.
indeed. So let's first then, I want to talk about this notion of clean beauty, which you've mentioned already. How do you define clean beauty then within your business? I guess all businesses would define it slightly differently. How do you define it? And how does it go beyond the kind of what's typical for the sort of range of products? And maybe you could talk to us about the sort of products that you're producing as well, just to give us some context. Yeah.
So right now we are mainly a makeup brand. I think that's probably going to keep evolving, because beauty is quite the evolving spectrum, where sometimes you have makeup meets skincare meets fragrance, and especially the categories are starting to blur. Right now we have 3 products. We have an eyeshadow palette. So this is powder. We have lip glosses, and we have eyeliner pencils, and there's much more to come. When it comes to these categories, for example, what does clean beauty mean for us? It means something that is safe for you to use. And that goes a long way, Tom. One, that means avoiding ingredients that are starting to become proven that there's an issue with them. Like talc in eyeshadows is a problem. Talc in the world is a problem. We have Johnson & Johnson that had billions of dollars of a lawsuit of the baby powder with talc. Let's not kid ourselves. It's like the same source of talc. Johnson & Johnson is the biggest producer of talc. So obviously whatever talc they had an issue with is the one used for the rest of the industries, because they're 95% of the production of talc. Talc is an issue. We know that talc is both an irritant. We know that talc, there's cancer doubts about it. There's so many studies right now. We know this is something we should not be using, except that 98% probably of makeup and eyeshadow still uses talc. When it comes to the lip glosses, we also know that there are some petroleum-based ingredients we should not be using. There's some alcohol-based ingredients that are extremely drying or actually extremely bad. When it comes to eyeliners, it's super similar. So there's one part which is the safety of the ingredients. There's another part which is, when I combine all of these ingredients together, is it safe? So that means going beyond what the industry does today. All of our products are allergy tested. dermatologist tested, and ophthalmologist tested. There's something crazy in the industry today where you go to Sephora, for example, and you would see brands with clear pictures of cool, colorful eyeshadows, and the product's called eyeliner, eyeshadow, mascara, and then you turn the packaging and it says not safe for use on eyes. Like, this is
Wow.
serious.
Wow.
It's and the fact that it's allowed is crazy, and it's serious. It's there. So we made a point to make sure all of our products that are for eyes are ophthalmologist tested. I'm not putting a product out there that is made for eyes, but I cannot say that it's safe to use on eyes.
Yeah.
Even though consumers do it, it's beauty is a you go miles to look beautiful. It's always fascinating how much someone is willing to ignore facts, what's in front of you, to look beautiful. So I would say that's number two in terms of, is this safe? And number three, are these products safe for the environment and for people? That means, if we are using palm oil, are we using palm oil that is derived from sources that are not contributing to deforestation? When we are using mica, are we using ethically sourced mica that is not linked to child labor, etc., etc., and it keeps going through. So for me, that is clean beauty. It is
Yeah.
something that has the right ingredients that are in themselves are not linked to harm to the body, to people, or to the planet,
Yeah.
and a formula as a whole that is comfortable, that is safe, that is
Yeah. Which sounds absolutely reasonable. And then it poses the question, so why is not all makeup like that? I mean, what is this? What's going on? Is it just cost cutting? Is it kind of trying to find workarounds? Is it cheaper ingredients? What's
I mean,
going on?
it's many things. I think one, it's I mean, there's an issue of education. I think it's makeup is complicated, beauty is complicated. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ingredients, and I would say that used to be an excuse. It's not anymore.
Yeah.
In a world of Google and AI and TikTok, education is out there. It's actually very quick and easy right now to start to go look for an ingredient, especially with new new organizations happening. But for example, you have retailers like the Detox Market or Credo in the US who are making it very easy to start understanding what is a good standard for clean beauty. On their website, there are a list of ingredients. You've got projects like the Good Face Project. This is a project we work with where you can scan your formulas, and it's almost like directs you to the right way. This ingredient, you should be changing it to this one. So there are resources out there. I would say they're a bit newer over the past 10 years. It's not an excuse. 10 years and even a year is sufficient time to start moving your formulas somewhere. Number two, I would say there's a love for newness. There's a love for simple, quick. Unfortunately, beauty and makeup is still one of those territories where in French we say qui peut le plus peut le moins. How do I translate this? If you can do more, you can do less. Which is honestly, I think it's a concept we need to stop. Because when you think of most big brands, think of the Maybellines, the L'Oreal Parises, all of these big brands of makeup. We're still in a world where CEOs and managers and are pushing teams to give you a 72-hour wear mascara. Who needs that? Like, you should be showering, you should be sleeping. Your mascara should not be lasting that. But in order to achieve that, they're giving you glosses that can resist you, like eating an ice cream, coffee, food, kissing, dancing, going out. Again, it's this like push for more because we need to compete with other brands by, if someone has a 6-hour wear, we're going to have a 10-hour wear. If someone have a 24-hour wear, we're going to have a 48-hour wear. Well, guess what? You got to use some pretty nasty chemicals to get
to
a
achieve
product
that.
to last 72 hours through a shower, through washing, through swimming, through sweating, through going out. But the reality is, I think as a society and as consumers, we also need to tone down that expectation because no one needs that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
actually claims that are unnecessary. No one
Yeah.
needs that much. And number three, I think there's fear. There's fear because beauty is a very, very, very profitable big industry. Beauty is an industry that contributes to contributes to the economies of societies and countries. Beauty is a resilient industry that has kept growing and growing and growing. And beauty is made out of staples and hero products. And unfortunately, companies are not willing to risk losing 10% of a customer of a product because they are switching out a formula and the payoff might not be exactly the same. So there's a real reckoning we have to do with, do we need this many claims and this performance that is honestly unnecessary? Almost 95% of people are not needing that kind of extreme performance. And number two, can't we take a collective risk by switching to something better, even if it means losing some?
Yeah. Yeah. Amen to that. And actually getting to the products that you have on the market today, then, Nour, how hard was that in terms of creating those right formulas, sticking to your clean beauty principles, and getting something that you were happy with? Was it a long process? Did it happen quite quickly?
To be completely honest, I think getting the clean formulas was not hard. Getting the clean formulas was not hard, and I think that's a message everyone needs to hear. There's a lot of knowledge out there. There are fantastic labs around the world. You can get to great clean formulas. Our challenge was more, how do we get clean formulas into plastic-free packaging? And
Yeah.
that combination of plastic-free packaging with clean formulas together was what is hardest.
Okay, so why is that? Let's talk about the plastic-free stuff then. I'm lucky enough to have actually witnessed and held some of your products. I think I held a color palette. That's the one that you've got there. And wow, I mean, what beautiful
Thank you.
products. Really beautiful. Yeah, vibrant, colorful, but also plastic-free. So yeah, so tell us how you went about that then, and specifically on that point then. So why was the kind of clean beauty principles plus the plastic-free packaging the challenge? What was the tough bit to crack?
So when you create a new beauty product, there are, I would say, three main tests you got to get your product to go through, and that's what takes month and month and month. Once you've defined the formula and defined the packaging, you have to do one test is called the compatibility test.
Right.
Is this formula compatible with this packaging? Which means I'm going to test it at ambient temperature, high temperature, cold temperature over a month, 2 months, 3 months. And these different variations is going to simulate how this formula is going to live in this packaging and how this packaging is going to live with this formula over almost 3 years. It's
Okay.
going to simulate for you all of that. Like 45 degrees Celsius over 2 months usually simulates 2 years on shelf.
Wow. Okay.
So that tells you how do they live together. Sometimes the formula might separate in a packaging, might melt. Sometimes the packaging, I'm sure you've seen plastic bottles at some points, they shrink, they lose air. That is a compatibility issue. That means it
Right.
hasn't been tested well. So that's one. Second is stability of a formula. Is this formula stable through time? And that usually has to do with preservatives, with binders, with thickeners, with everything that has to do with the formula. And number three is called the microbiology, which means really, is this formula is there life that's gonna create in a formula? No one wants that. That has to do with fungus. That has to do with does this formula have water or not? How is this formula protected so that external germs or microbes or anything will start building. So what makes it hard is that we are in an industry that is set on sameness. Almost you can't have this many brands launching all the time. Everyone is not innovating from zero. There are right now a lot of factories and a lot of labs in the world that are proposing to you, here is this product is like a clé en main, like a hand, I'm handing it to you. You can switch a fragrance. Let's throw in together a jojoba extract, and you can call it that. And you can put a logo here, and you can change the packaging from white to green to blue. But basically, there are formulas that come tried and tested for years. So this kind of plastic packaging with this kind. And for an industry that over the past 100 years has been using the same set of ingredients and the same set of materials for packaging, you can imagine, Tom, how easy those tests are. We know that PP plastic goes super well with oil-based lip gloss formulas. You can almost blindly close your eyes and launch that product. And what we call wave the testing, because you know it's going to happen. Well, we couldn't do any of that. I'm using a new technology of packaging with new technology of formula. So just imagine the combinations of risk that we had to go through and the amount of failures of what goes in what until you get there. So I think that's the big challenge. When you're doing something new, we are going against the norms of the industry. So we found ourselves a bit alone, and that's okay, because we found ourselves, we're not sitting on years of data. We're sitting on zero data.
Absolutely. And so plastic in itself is not necessarily the issue. The issue is what happens to the products at the end of life. And often parts of the products are kind of connected
100%.
together, so you can't separate them, and they're not designed for end of life and for the circular economy. So in your example then, so you're using aluminium, aren't you, for a lot of your
I'm using tin, I'm using aluminium, and I'm using wood.
Okay. Wow.
So we're using for our palette tin, and we managed to do eyeshadow palette 100% made out of tin. So which also makes it 100% recyclable. Because metal has a fantastic recycling stream. And not only a recycling stream, because when you recycle, you can upcycle, recycle, downcycle. The good news about metal is that it's 100% recycling, which means you can go back to having the same rigidity, the same shine, the same flexibility. The material doesn't lose value. There's a reason why jewelry is what it is. There's a reason why people invest in objects made out of metal. Our lip gloss is made out of aluminum, and it's 100% aluminum, and that is also another stream that is, we've talked about tin, and that's your cans of soup and beans and all of that. And I'm pretty sure most consumers in an industry where the issue is a lack of education, not knowing how do I get rid of a product, and wish cycling, people thinking that I'm just going to throw this in the recycling bin and of course it's going to be recycled. The good news is that there isn't a lot of wish cycling in metal because it will get recycled. People know that their can of soup will probably become a can of soup again. And people know that their can of Coca-Cola might become a Pepsi or a beer. And my lip gloss will become a can of Coca-Cola. And my eyeshadow palette will become a can of soup.
Yeah. The annoying thing, sorry, my dog is just going nuts in the background.
My dog is surprisingly spectacularly calm, by the way. He's right there.
Mine is very rarely calm. The great thing about plastic, well, the annoying thing about plastic is that it's really good, isn't it? And I wonder whether the alternatives you're using, is there any compromise in any way? Or, is there a downside to what you're doing that you're just
Look, there are difficulties. We wanted to create something that doesn't have a compromise. I think that's the beauty of it, because let's not kid ourselves. Sustainability has failed in many ways because there was always a compromise. The first vegan burgers came with a lot of compromise. They were dry, made out of lentils, and not that tasty. And then when we moved to Impossible and Beyond, and now it's starting to become almost more delicious, more digestible. Sustainable clothes for a long time used to all be just beige and gray and the same kind of linen fabric and not feel great. And now we're getting to real innovations that get you to almost not know. I think I think we're going to succeed in sustainability when we don't have to say something is sustainable and we're drawing people in with something different. We use a sentence on the brand that says plastic could never. We are not using plastic not just because we hate plastic. We are not using plastic because we wanted to create an object that is beautiful, that has a temperature, a sound, a weight in your hand. We wanted to go back to this cult of an object in beauty, what we had before plastic, where we had objects you can keep, a keepsake, something that feels in your hand. You're paying a lot of money for a beauty product. So why are we settling down for plastic? I would never agree or accept to have a nice glass of wine in a cup of plastic, or eat a nice meal in a plastic plate or with plastic forks and spoons. So why am I doing the most intimate thing where people are paying 30, 40, 50, $60 for a lip gloss and a lipstick, and we're accepting it to come in a pretty cheap plastic?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, no compromise is a recurring theme on this show when we talk to entrepreneurs like yourself. And absolutely is important. Tell me also, Nour, about the Mexican heritage and how important that is to your brand. You're sat there in Mexico City, a proud Mexico man. Explain to me how Mexico is kind of represented by your brand.
I mean, Mexico is represented in many ways. First of all, I think it was super important for us to call the brand Aora Mexico and not just Aora, because we think that origins have a lot to do with brands, and we wanted to put Mexico on the map. Think about it. L'Oreal Paris, Lancôme Paris, Chanel Paris, Burberry London, Maybelline New York. Putting a city behind a beauty brand is origins bring something.
Yeah.
We wanted to celebrate the spectacular culture and abundance that there is in Mexico. We always say that like no one remains unchanged after the poetry of color of Mexico. If hopefully you'll come to Mexico City and I'll show you around. It's a city where you can walk around and there's a blue house next to a pink house with a jacaranda tree that is purple in front, and there's a red roof, and there's a green car, and there's an exuberance of color, and it makes sense. It makes sense. There's Mexico is the Mexico of Frida, of Diego Rivera, of Barragan. There's so many aesthetics I think that we can use. There's so many stories we can tell. And I think that's the main thing. We are celebrating an ecosystem of creativity in Mexico, a country that is so rich in arts, so rich in color, so rich in beautiful imaginaries, so rich in ingredients, that it's worth celebrating. And there's a place in the world to celebrate all cultures. And we are not one. We are not saying Mexico is worth celebrating more than other cultures. We think that a lot of northern cultures have had a lot of space and beauty to be celebrated. And we think it's time for something new from somewhere else.
Yeah, love that. What's the ultimate goal then, with this brand? I mean, because one could argue that in terms of making a difference and making an impact and sustainability, that someone like you might well have been better off staying within L'Oreal, where you had a bigger, broad canvas to work with, and an opportunity to make much more of an impact, dare I say. So what's the ultimate goal of this brand? How big do you want to get? I mean, if you're in terms of trying to make an impact,
but I couldn't do the impact. I couldn't do the impact I wanted at L'Oreal. So I think that's the first one. Okay, at some point you hit a plateau where big companies want to do incremental innovation, and they will get there one day. But our world also needs disruptive innovation. Sometimes you gotta just like break a wall and do something completely new. And sometimes you gotta almost build a new house versus keep renovating. And that's the right way to do it. There is another way, which is incremental. We want to be disruptive. I think the goal for our company, the win would be many things. I think from proving Mexico has a place, we want to inverse a routine / a dynamic that happens. Often you've got a Mexican woman or a Southern woman going into a fancy department store to buy the luxury brands from Paris or New York. Well, success for me is the day a Parisian woman in Paris or a New York woman is going to go to Le Bon Marché or Bergdorf Goodman and ask for the Mexican luxury brand. I think that's number one. And I just need that to happen once. That's the success. I think once we hit that, that's a beautiful KPI for us. Number two, we want to really open the conversation in the industry. And this is why I am so grateful and appreciative that you're having me here, because I think the conversation needs to be had more. We have an industry that is having issues of a lack of education about the waste problem, a lack of regulation about this waste problem, and a lack of fun. We have taken out the fun out of sustainability, and it's important, if we want people to get to education and to get to regulation, you get to make it fun, and you get to
Yeah.
make it in a different way. And I think that's what we want on the brand. We want to make
Yeah.
sure that we are contributing to education, we are contributing to regulation, we're working on that, and we are bringing a fresh, cool, desirable approach to sustainable products. And obviously, I'm not going to lie, we are a small business, we are entrepreneurs, and we want to grow, we want to be profitable, we want to get the right funding, the right investment, and we want to grow and take our rightful space in the industry, and hopefully push more people through the example that you can do well by doing good as a business. And you need all of those together. I don't think we need to make money, because that's the best way to get there. And you talk about the better business, and it's still a business at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. The full spectrum of sustainability. You've got to make money too, right? So for listeners out there, also for my two daughters who don't listen to the show, let's face it, but will want to know, are you going to be able to ship to the UK in time for Christmas? That's the big question, right?
Wow. You know what? It has not been on our radar at all, because look, we're less than a year old as a brand. We
Yeah.
were just in Mexico. This summer, it started becoming really exciting because we started seeing so much traffic to our website from the US. So we
Yeah.
just opened our like humble Mexico website to the US, and we're switching it up. So now I am shipping to the US. But you know what? I haven't looked at the UK, but I'm going to look at it. I'm going
Yeah.
to look at it, because maybe I can ship in time for Christmas, at least for a very exceptional way on the website. Because let me look at that and get back to you, because why not? Our
Yeah.
website is aoramakeup.com. You can already check us out on there.
Brilliant.
And our Instagram is Aora Mexico. And we're going to look into that. We're having, honestly, like, I'm super grateful, because there's been a lot of traction, and suddenly word of mouth is getting out there. And now we have to deal with the not so innovative but just as difficult questions, which is, can we ship to another
Logistics.
country?
Yeah, logistics. Well, look, Nour, it's been wonderful having you on and finding out what you're up to. I wish you all the very best with it, because I think it's a wonderful business, and it's an industry that absolutely needs some disruptors like you in it. So appreciate what you're doing. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Tom. I'm super grateful for this.
Great stuff. Thank you.